And Nigerians will experience multi-dimensional suffering, says Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria. Well, this is Plus Politics. I am Mary Ann Okon. The Minister of State for Labour and Employment, Festus KEYAMO, SAN, has dismissed the ENDSARS panel set up by the Lagos State government and the report it presented recently. He said it was out of the jurisdiction of the panel to investigate the activities of federal government institutions and officials such as Nigeria Police Force and the Nigerian Army. He also explained why the ban on Twitter has not been lifted, saying the dialogue to lift the ban is in progress with few conditions yet to be met. Well, joining us to discuss this are legal practitioners Chris Itamanola and Monday Ubani. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Great. Barrister Ubani, I'm going to start by asking, what does the minister mean by the panel is illegal? When he says the panel is illegal, what exactly is he pointing to?
Yes, I watched him last night on television where he strenuously tried as much as possible to condemn the panel that was set up by the governors all across the country by saying that it was illegal, and he hinged the name illegality to those panels on the ground that they were investigating Nigerian police and Nigerian army, which according to him does not have to appear before those panels because they don't have jurisdiction. They are federal agencies, over which Lagos State or any other state has legislative competence. He cited section 21 of Tribunal of Inquiries law, because according to him, under that particular section, it's only matters that are within the legislative competence of the state government that the panel of inquiry can exercise jurisdiction over. That was what he was trying to explain, and we laughed at that explanation because he wasn't right, both in law and in logic. Because what transpired and what actually went on with the tribunals is quite different from what he was alluding to. They were not asked to investigate promotion of the Nigerian military or army, or to draw up policies with regards to Nigerian army or police, or to talk about their recruitment or discipline. The tribunals that were set up was with regards to violation of the rights of the citizen and how to, concern the issue of security of the state. And so the governors and the state government have jurisdiction over issue of insecurity or security, and they also have jurisdiction over complaints of violations of right, especially when we know that 1999 Constitution does not have any provision for what we call a Tribunal of Inquiry, Act that is applicable to all over the Federation. The Tribunal of Inquiry Act is today, is only applicable to Federal Capital Territory. The states have what we call residual jurisdiction over the issue of panel of inquiries. And when they have that residual power, they have a right to set up panel that deals with issue of the matter that affects them, affects the state, and even issue of public welfare. Not only issue of matter that affect them, but issue of public welfare. They have a right to set up an inquiry or investigation into such conduct of any public officer, including officers that are federal government agencies, as long as those things happen within the jurisdiction where the panel is set up, like Lagos. And it borders on issue that the state has jurisdiction, like issue of violations of rights. There is nothing that precludes Lagos State or any other state for that matter to set up a panel of inquiry to look into that situation. So I fault the learned sake, and that is Festus KEYAMO, who spoke not as the minister, according to him, but as a lawyer. And so he was talking law, and so we also have to follow him with the express provisions of the law that actually contradicted his position he held yesterday on Channels Television.
Now, including the reasons why this panel was set up, is he trying to send a message to Nigerians, including the governor of Lagos State, who set up that panel, and the members of the panel, which includes a senior advocate of Nigeria? Is he dismissing every single day and hour that was expended on that panel of inquiry or to investigate all that happened during that Lekki Toll Plaza situation or incident? Is he saying that none of this will see the light of day? Is he also saying that if this report is taken up, it will not hold water in court? Is this what he's implying?
I don't. That's why many Nigerians are really expressing shock at that expression yesterday. And of course, you can see that the social media is clearly agog with regards to that statement that Festus KEYAMO posited yesterday. It's clearly shocking. Festus KEYAMO never raised any issue as to the legitimacy or illegality of that panel when it was constituted. I never see any of his write-up or any public opinion in which he has actually said that the panel shouldn't have been set up in the first place. Remember that this panel came as a result of an emergency meeting of National Economic Council that was presided over by the. It is important that a panel be set up to address and hear what these young men, and young ladies that troop into the street, what were their grievances, and see what we can do to address them. And so it was consequent upon that, and the governors agreed that something has to be done because these things arose from their various states. And so there was a consensus added them that panel of inquiry should be set up. And federal government should also set up their own in Abuja. I think it was either the Human Rights Commission that also set up one in Abuja. And so all this while, the police, the army, all of them attended those panels and submitted to their jurisdiction and gave evidence. And so for somebody now, just because he was invited to a national television to now say that everything that happened in all those panels were clearly illegal and a waste of time, clearly shocking. And I don't know the basis upon which, but I want to say this. Since the panel's report in Lagos was made public, I have heard several persons running helter-skelter trying to deny the truth of what was recommended or what was their findings. So they try as much as possible for us to believe the lie they told, that there was no death. And it's shocking because that was not only the reason why that panel in Lagos State was set up. It was set up to address the issue of human rights violation. And secondly, it was after the death that occurred in Lekki Phase 2 that Lagos State added the issue of Lekki Toll Gate. It wasn't the first issue, but nobody's even addressing the issue because the findings of the panel indicted the army and police for the shooting that took place. So they tried to make us believe that there was no shooting, there was no death whatsoever. And that's why they are coming out with all these manner of manipulations and statements, which clearly will be, to the Lagos State government not to actually obey whatever has been recommended. That is actually what I'm beginning to see with all these posturings, that is going on. First with Lai Mohammed, and now with Festus KEYAMO, who happens to be a minister, but who denied that he's no longer talking like a minister, that he's only speaking as a lawyer. So okay. I think that is about the indictment that was found in that recommendation of the panel, or the findings of the panel, that is making them to do everything in order to rubbish what has been the findings of that panel. That is my take. That's my take in this. Okay.
Barrister Taminola, I'm going to toss the question to you now. Dr. Bani here is implying that the federal government or government officials are trying to rubbish the report that had been submitted by this Lagos State panel. By the way, I always like to plug in that different panels were set up. We've not heard anything from those panels, including that in your state. But then Lagos State has decided to send out its report. They presented it to the governor. Why do you think Mr. President asked that these panels be set up, but then again, allegedly is trying to rubbish the report?
Well, Festus KEYAMO, before he became a minister, incidentally was an acclaimed, in inverted comma, a freedom fighter, a human rights fundamentalist. And now that he's in government, what he's simply doing is to do what he thinks is his job, and that is to wrongly put the government in a bad light. What is important is, does the Lagos State government have a right, in the first instance, where is the location? What is the venue of the incident? It took place in Lagos State. And does the Lagos State have the powers to constitute a panel to be able to investigate, to look into this particular incident? The answer is yes. It becomes even more when it is backed by the federal government. I mean, it is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that gave a bite, a teeth to this particular panel. But now, I'm sure KEYAMO is trying to come from an angle that because they are soldiers, because they are security agencies, there are tribunals that ought ordinarily, in the event that they are found culpable or they are triable, that it is the tribunals that, special military tribunals that ought to have tried them. But that's not the issue. What is important here is the fact that no matter how unconstitutional that panel is expected to be, the parties and the witnesses submitted themselves voluntarily, just like my colleague have said. And once you do so in law, you have waived your rights. And just like you have indicated, my colleague has stated, prior to this particular time, KEYAMO never went to the courts to challenge the powers of this particular tribunal. But KEYAMO never made any contrary statement. And see, if we have to go forward as a country, we have to take a cue from civilized nations like in Europe, even as far as close as South Africa. Some of these will never be. Look at the former president of South Africa committed contempt. What was it? Contempt of not coming to court to be answerable to questions of corruption. And what happened? As we are talking, he was thrown into the cell at least to go and cool down there. So as far as I know, it's unfortunate that KEYAMO, who says is by virtue of his position a senior advocate of Nigeria, to make this comment is, to say the least, unfortunate.
Just before we continue, I think that you're in a very echoey place, so we're struggling to hear you. It's very echoey where you are. I would ask that you go someplace else that is not as echoey. But I want to also add to the issue of the statements that he made. He talked about the fact that this massacre that is being referred to in the panel's report is only in context. What do you think he meant by that? Because this has also been a subject of debate by government aides, saying that, Lai Mohammed, the Minister of Information, has continuously said over and over that there was no massacre at the toll gate. Recently, he referred to the report as Tales by Moonlight.
This is just another way of also undermining the incidences. One thing we've got to appreciate in this country is that the government pays very less attention to the issue of welfare and security, which is the primary responsibility of any government that is there. Even if it is only one life that has been killed, it doesn't matter whether there are 4, 5, 7 lives that were killed. And of course, here again, it also shows our security ineptitude. Here again, definitely one thing is certain. It begs the issue that it's high time we had on our streets at strategic points, CCTVs and the rest of that. But our society is so depraved in such a manner that even if you have installed these security facilities, it's not impossible that somebody will still go at that particular forum or fora to ensure that at least in order to subvert the cause of justice, that things that ought to be to aid, are. So for KEYAMO to say that it's just a particular part, there was a gathering, a lawful gathering, and a peaceful gathering. And of course, until the security agencies infiltrated into the arena to start shooting sporadically, the evidences are there, the footages are there. CNN carried the footages to the effect that, innocent citizens of Nigeria were shot at, without any defense of any type and whatsoever. So it's unfortunate.
Back to you, Dr. Bani. Let's look at the implications of this report that has been given to the Lagos state government. I remember that the same week when that report was presented to the governor, the federal government released a statement saying that they don't necessarily have to, the report is not supposedly to be presented to them. But what happens to the report? Because Nigerians are very curious. People want to know what happens. Yes, the report has been presented to the governor. They're going to do due diligence. But what are the processes that will be involved in getting justice, especially for the victims of this police brutality and, of course, the killings at the toll gate?
Well, we have to actually adhere strictly to what the Lagos state government said when the report was handed over to the governor. I remember that he set up there and then a 4-man committee that is headed by his Attorney General. And according to him, they have to review the findings of the panel. And after which they will issue a white paper. That white paper will actually be a roadmap to implementing whatever recommendation has been made by the panel. So it may be very premature for me now to gauge what they want to do in this circumstance. But I think that the best thing we need to offer now is an advice that it is in the interest of the Lagos state government not to rubbish the findings of the panel that is set up. They made so many promises when they set up this panel, and many Nigerians did not believe them. Some of us, went out of our way to really cajole and advise Nigerians to hold on, that the government will not in any way fail in this regard, because it's a matter of public interest. Lives were lost. There were violations of rights. And there was so much tension in the land as a result of the uproar of those violations. It's an accumulated anger. And we felt that the only way to redress that injustice, is for government to intervene, which is what they did by setting up the panel. And the panel has made out their findings and recommendations. It will be very wrong now for the same government that made those promises, that made people to believe that they were genuine in really readdressing the issue of injustice and grievances that were expressed by those young ones, to now turn around and do something that is different. I have this belief that the Lagos state government will live up to expectation by issuing a white paper that will lead to the finding of the lasting solution to this problem. That is what I think. Despite all the hula of whatever is going on now, all the noise.
But has there been a precedent? Because there has to be a precedent of sorts. Why should Nigerians trust the process now? Yes, we have seen that the panel has done its bit. But with all of the shouting, the hues and the cries, is there anything, any shred of hope that the average Nigerian can hold on to, being that politicians in this country have made promises and they've failed to fulfill those promises? So why should we start now to have hope?
It's an intelligent question. You know, if they fail in this regard, it goes to add to all the, evidence of lack of trust that they generate themselves, they create it, and that nobody trusts them. So it will be an additional aspect of evidence that if this government is never meant well in the first place. As my learned friend has rightly pointed out, the primary responsibility of any government is actually the protection of life and property and the welfare of the people. Now that issue of welfare came up and government set up a panel to address that grievance, and that panel has made findings and recommendations, will it be right for that same government to just rubbish all the money, all the time, everything that was spent in now making a finding to address that injustice? So I want to still believe that we should give them that opportunity to do the right thing, rather than me now jumping to conclusion and I'll say, oh, I'm not going to believe them. There is no basis for that. Yeah, there have been instances where they have failed. But this is going to be additional aspect of this evidence that this government never meant well in the first place when they campaigned in 2014 and 15. If they fail to, and we are waiting for them in 2023. So I don't believe that the current governor, Shawolu will, after all the time he has wasted with these professionals, retired justice, senior advocate of Nigeria, the civil rights society group, the young ones, they all came together to, they sat for several months without, I know some of them that couldn't even attend any program because of this particular sitting. They considered it very important more than any other thing. And then after the whole exercise, the government comes with a different thing entirely. It will be very, very shocking. It will be clearly unbelievable.
All right, quickly, we have just one more minute. Barrister Itaminola, why do you think that there is so much push and shove as a result since after this report has been submitted? Is there anything that the federal government is afraid of?
Look, the federal government is not going to implement anything good.
Why?
The federal government, insofar as this state government, the Lagos state government is part of the administration of President Buhari. My hope before now usually would have been that something positive will come out. But this government of President Buhari has a track record of disobeying laws and court orders. So no matter how well this panel has sat down, painstakingly, like my colleague has stated, no matter what you are talking, it is one thing for the verdict to come. It is another thing for Lagos state government under the federal government to implement. And I'm saying, the people have no trust, no confidence. Even me, I'm so certain at the end of the day, these documents from this panel will just go into the trash bin.
Well, I hope that they prove you wrong. Christy Taminola, Monday Ubani, thank you very much for being part of the conversation.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having us.
All right. Well, thank you all for staying with us. We'll take a quick break, and when we return, we're looking at the cost of living in Nigeria, because the Christian Association of Nigeria is saying that we might be experiencing multi-dimensional suffering. Stay with us.
Andy Obama, Fred is a lowering. In this case, there is nobody supports him. The international community monitored the election, and the international community represented by the EU and UK delegation is quite impressed about the processes and the outcome. The media, both local and international, were there. They're quite impressed. A lot of civil society groups very impressed, and all the political parties including the APC, starting with the national leader of the APC, President Muhammadu Buhari, who has not only congratulated the winner, but it says he's looking forward to working closely with Professor Soludo towards the development of not just Anambra State, but the entire Southeast.
You know, obviously, with what the Boko Haram started, that has now graduated to the advanced level, even the name of the group suggests to you that there is a hyper intolerance to holding divergent religious belief. Islamic State of West African countries. And what is the intention? To establish the Islamic Caliphate. So that means they are not willing to accommodate other religions. And it's not fair, really.
Nigeria has such a rich heritage. It has such a rich history. We have another project, a really large one, in Epe.
That's my culture.
Preserving the Ijebu Kingdom. And there was a series
of... Oh, that's Ekpe? Okay.
Ekpe, exactly. And preserving sort of, you know, the canals that are around and really defining where they are as well. And we're going to be doing that with LiDAR technology from the air.
The truth is that the state government is just looking for a diversionary measure. They want a situation where people can be distracted from the real issues so that questions can not be asked about what our pensioners are passing through since the last 2 years of this administration. They don't want people to notice that civil servants have been passing through one verification or the other since the past 2 years. They don't want anybody to ask about what is happening with the local government funds and other maladministration that is happening. That is why they are using Ihedioha as a distraction. And unfortunately for them, the people are not buying into that. Imolites are wiser. They have shown that they know what is happening, and they have shown that they cannot be deceived.
The truth and the reality of the matter is that all Nigerians can't leave the country. In as much as I hope and wish that can happen, it's still our country. And we have to deal with this. We have to keep on fighting. We have to keep on hoping. We have to still try and make our leaders accountable. Yes, there's despair amongst young people, especially with the way government is denying it. But there's some small glimmer of hope where another government, Lagos State government, released this report. We operate a federal system, and Lagos is a federating unit of Nigeria. So there is still hope. Just because some people at the center are denying it doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. It doesn't mean there won't be restitution. It doesn't mean that justice will not be served. We are hopeful, so we're not going to lose hope. We're happy that this happened because it means that there's some small hope. It actually gives us a sign of hope that things might change.
You're able
to afford
this.
Difficult to educate a hungry man. It is. You try to educate them. You tell them that don't sell your vote, this, that. And say, Marianne, you're right. I know. But you see, that election comes. The person is hungry. You've educated her. You're coming to work, you're busy every day. Then that person going for reps or assembly comes to her 2 days before elections, gives them money and says to them, on election morning you get 2,000, and after the votes have been counted, come over, you'll get another 2. And you now come out, you've been to work, you won't even be there, you'll be reporting on the day of the elections. And the person comes out again and says, Mama, don't forget to vote your conscience. What conscience?
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Are you ready to party right from the comfort of your TV screen? The Rundown's here to save the day. From freshly baked videos to the classics to the youngins and dope conversations, all in one chart. We got you covered. Just tune in to The Rundown every Friday, 10:30 p.m. West African time. The Rundown. Let's turn it up.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
The Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria has told the federal government that removing fuel subsidy will worsen the suffering of a majority of Nigerians who are already impoverished. The president of the PFN, Bishop Wale Oke, urged the government to shelve the proposed policy in order not to worsen the hardship of the people and trigger crisis in the country. Well, joining us to discuss this is financial analyst Richard Inoyo and Chairman Christian Association of Nigeria, Kaduna State Chapter, Reverend Joseph Hayab. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
All right, I'm going to start with you, Richard, because you are into the numbers. It's interesting because every single day that goes by, Nigerians are forced to tighten their belts every day. The case doesn't seem to be easier, by the day. You hope that, as the days go by, the government would come up with policies that would, one way or the other, lighten the load of the average Nigerian. But that doesn't seem to be the case. But let's zero in into this subsidy removal issue. This is one of the things that when our president was then a presidential candidate, he and many others who are now members of this APC political party walked through the streets of Nigeria, occupying Nigeria on this issue of subsidy removal. But here we are again with the same issue, but this time the government seems to be on that side. Richard, can you hear me?
Well, let me start by saying it's sad that we even have the president's... Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Now, it's sad that we even have a president contemplating to increase the price of oil in Nigeria. It's sad, to be honest with you. It's just so sad. Why I'm saying this is because if you look at the statistics from World Poverty Clock, it is said that over 105 million Nigerians are currently living below the poverty line. They're living in extreme poverty, not just poverty, but they're living in extreme poverty. And what that simply means in the real sense is that for every 2 Nigerian, 1 is technically poor. Okay? And that is why some of us in the financial markets, we're already thinking or coming to the conclusion that the president of Nigeria seems to have a national poverty expansionary plan. A national poverty expansionary plan aimed at dragging more Nigerians into the poverty nets, aimed at ensuring that every family at the end of the day produce people who can be classified as poor, people living below $1.9 a day. Why
would that be the plan of Mr. President when he promised us to give us a better economy, to fight corruption, and to, give us more employment? I'm trying to understand where you're coming from.
No, you see, a wise man once said that don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. Focus on the action. Okay, so if you're to focus on the action of the president, not the speeches, we have to focus on his action. Now, let me put it clear to you. This is a country where the cost of even doing business is already high. That's 1. 2, when you take that cost of doing business, okay, into the metrics of knowing that we don't have constant energy, what we call electricity in Nigeria, that simply means by increasing the cost of accessing the PMX, what you're trying to do technically is to increase energy costs for business operation. And do you want me to explain to you what that implies in terms of running business in Nigeria?
Please do.
Or what that would mean for manufacturers who have to choose between recruiting more stress, investing more, supply they need to be able to power their plants. So literally, we are going to be faced with not only just rising costs of production, we'll also be faced with rising cost of moving our products from one place to the other. So on the overall, this policy is in the real sense when it comes to removal of subsidy, which I don't even think the issue is about subsidy here. It's about an attempt by the presidency, because we have more of the presidency than the president. This is an attempt by the presidency and NNPC alongside the international collaborators to ensure that they cripple the Nigerian economy okay, with this policy. So first, we're going to have increase in the cost of doing business in terms of how you get your energy and what it costs to get energy. Also, the cost of moving your products from point A in Nigeria to point B in Nigeria. If you put these two costs together, transport costs and energy costs, I'm not even talking about the cost of raw material that will be impacted with the increase in the price of the PMX. I don't go into that. But if you take these two costs together, what you're going to have is what I call the equivalent of what is going on in Lebanon, where people have money, but yet they cannot use their money, okay, to buy tangible goods that they need. And I'm so afraid that where we're heading to is a place where not only that we're going to have more Nigerians dragged into the pit of poverty, we're going to have massive insecurity problem, because when people can't get jobs because companies are folding up, because companies can't stand the cost of energy and the cost of transportation, logistics, what that simply means that they're going to fold up, people will lose jobs, insecurity will rise, and at the end of the day, we all will be sorry for it.
Okay, Reverend Hayab, I know that you have to stand on your pulpit every day and preach that message of hope to the people that are in your congregation, telling them to hold on, that God is going to, I really don't know, I'm just trying to presume what you would be saying to people, because people are in church looking for some shred of hope. But then, of course, Bishop Francis Waloke is saying that we're going to be facing some form of multi-dimensional suffering. And from what the financial analyst is saying, it's not a story where we see a light at the end of the tunnel, is it?
Truly speaking, the situation...
Reverend Hype, are you there? I think we're having a connection issue with you.
Well, it is a sad one, because when you see someone or a group of people who advocated to stand for the masses, who advocated to defend the masses, who advocated to give services to the masses, turning back to begin to make things difficult for the masses, then it's unfortunate. Because all of us are aware that this current leadership came on the platform of telling the masses that the previous leaderships were not doing right, they were not serving the interests of the people, they were instead exploiting the people. But sincerely speaking, the exploitation at this moment is bad. I don't want to be too technical. Thank God that our brother has actually shared his view as a financial analyst. But let me put it from the practical point of view. Even the solution government is presenting to Nigerians itself is a big problem. How can government tell us that they want to remove subsidy, but they are going to pay 4...
Again, I think we have lost Reverend Hayab. Reverend Hayab, can you hear me? Are you there? Well, apologies. We're having that connection issue with Reverend Hayab. We'll try to bring him back. But back to you, Richard, while you hold forth for Reverend Hayab. I was speaking with some people over the weekend who said, one person said, I took 30,000 naira to the market and I was unable to buy anything. And another said, I bought gas, for 8.5 the other day, and now it's almost 10,000. And who knows what it's going to be in December. Let's not forget the Yuletide is just around the corner. Naturally, the prices of things literally hit, the roof. What is the fate of the average Nigerian? Is the December going to be dirty in any way? Richard, can you hear me?
Well, first, you see, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there's a saying that how the weekend is going to be, we're going to know as in by on Friday. So the truth here is that I don't see Nigerians even celebrating. I think someone made a joke recently and said that it's as if the Christmas carol are no longer playing. It's as if the Jingle Bell songs are no longer singing. Who stole the bell? That goes to show that we're getting to the point where people don't even feel like celebrating anything anymore, because the money you have is competing with so many other needs, such that you don't even want to celebrate where it matters. And it's sad to know that the president is already indirectly through his proxy telling Nigeria that the biggest gift we're going to get in the new year would be something that will torture our lives. And it's worrisome. It's not as if some of us enjoy coming to talk on TV or attending to interviews on radio. But when you see the policy and the direction of the policy and what it implies in terms of poverty and insecurity, business costs, and all of those things, you come to realize that we are in a very serious problem. And the only way out is for us to reverse the policy. In fact, the idea that we have the presidency thinking in this direction makes me feel very sad. Don't forget that one of the reasons why the likes of Jonathan lost the election was because it was proposing increase in the price of the PMS. And that was what actually led to all the persons coming together to form a coalition to wrest power from him. So if that is the fundamental reason for which power left the PDP, for instance, or President Goodluck Jonathan, why does President Buhari feels that Nigerians want him to do exactly what he stood against, and they also stood for him for standing against that? So it does not really make sense in the real sense. I think there's a cartoonist that came up with a joke where a man was standing upside down and the wife was practically asking the man, what are you trying to do? He said he's trying to understand the policy of this government. All I can see right now is that there's a total disconnection between the president and the Nigerian people. And maybe the president is thinking that by increasing the price of oil, Nigerians would pat him on the back. No. What he's going to get at the end of the day will just be increase in agony and likely a nationwide protest, because it's no longer about he's from South, he's from the North, or he's a Muslim, or he's a Christian. It's about how do all of us in this country get affected by policies that seems to mean something dangerous to us.
Finally, before I let you go, yeah, quickly before I let you go, in a few words, the presidency that you have been referring to has great economists, and there's an economic team that is being headed by the vice president, and I know one of the most intelligent people in terms of the economy, Bismarck Rwani, actually works in the presidency. Are you trying to tell me that these people have not necessarily looked at the aftermath of this fuel subsidy removal before they okayed it for the government to even bring it to the fore? In closing,
I don't even believe that they have been listened to, because I have high level of respect for the life of oil, yet you don't have
result of the internet connection. Thank you so much for speaking with us. Well, we'll leave you with what Nigerians have to say about the cost of living in the country, because this is the order of the day. But I want to thank you for being part of the conversation. I am Mary Anacon. I'll see you tomorrow.
High cost of food in Nigeria, especially here in Lagos, is over alarming. The things that you can buy with small money before, but now if you don't have more than enough, you cannot not even afford a cup of garri these days. We don't know what happened. The government is there. They are planning for their political whatever, and they are not doing anything about the country. And we are hoping for 2022 for another election, but they are not doing anything. The individuals that can afford food, they are not many. And the ones that are suffering for this food, they cannot get anything from it. Today they said onions, it is like this, garri, everything. Nothing is going well.
Everyone, even the little ones, knows that everywhere the economy